Okay, so welcome to the season 4 edition of.
But that's not
not
important
right
now.
now.
I feel like we need a little
Holy
team music.
hell.
That actually did that well.
Yeah,
usually
we're
we
working
don't do
on
it well. We don't do it
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
We kind of suck at it big time.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put some theme music at the beginning of this
Yeah.
for the podcast. And Jared hates it. But what I want to do is I want people to listen to it and see.
Well, I didn't exactly say hated it. I just said that it sounded more like the background music that you'd use for, something for erectile dysfunction. Like you can't rise to the occasion.
Right.
Well, something for your
this
right
podcast.
Yeah, so I think it's appropriate. But I had Tracy listen to it and I had Osman listen to it. And both of them said they liked that particular piece of music because it sounds retro, but at the same time kind of modern. And it kind of sticks in your head. And I think that was what I was going for. But Quincy, the story behind that music, I'm going to see if I could try to play it. The story behind that music is I did it using an AI. I got an AI to build it completely.
Okay.
So what I did was I actually took the Mad Men theme song, the first 1.5 minutes of the Mad Men theme song, and I plugged it into it and I said, use this as your inspiration. It actually says, use it as inspiration. And you can tell it, is it classical music? Is it jazz? Well, the jazz wasn't really jazz. The jazz was more piano jazz, which I was like, no, I want, bass guitar and all kind of thing. I don't want just piano, but that's all it could do. And I played around with it a little bit, and it came up with this piece of music. And I thought it was good. But what we tried to do is we tried to create where is it? We tried to make music from the Incredible soundtrack, the theme song for Incredibles, because that was more like where Jared wanted to go. And it choked. It just couldn't handle it. It was just like, no, this is too much variation for it to try to latch on to something to build on top of. But it was a great experiment. You get 3 free downloads of the software. So you could create as many as you want. I have like hundreds.
It's a cool story, though. I mean, it's a cool story to say, you do a theme song from an AI, no matter how the theme song,
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I was playing around with it and I was getting some very, very interesting results. And I thought it was interesting. But of course, Jared, let me see if this is.
Got it.
Okay.
As you trying to listen to it through your noise cancelling headphones, Dan?
Yeah, but usually right. Yeah. Usually I hear it. You see, I can't use the mic. Only I can use the mic. Anyway. So I would play that. I would put that as the introduction. And I would like feedback and comments from the various people when I put this out on Monday, because I'm still going to put this out. We record on a Wednesday, and I'll do a little edit or whatever. Because Quincy has promised to use lots of profanity today.
Profanity.
So I
I
might
was
have
just
to.
asking. I
I was like,
in
I was like,
case.
no, you can't say that. No, you can't say that. No.
Lenguaje adulto.
I just wanted to know the range, you know what I mean? That's the range.
Yeah. No, well, I don't think you've been on here before, and you know the score. I
Yeah,
don't.
man.
We're not in the business of. I mean, I remove things. I was removing things from last season that directly mentioned certain companies because I don't want to get into any sort of I have enough problems with my ex-wife and legal affairs that I don't really want to go and have anymore. But that being said, I think in
Hi, Daisy.
this episode,
Yeah, that's a giant.
hey, hello.
Hi, Daisy.
You want food? You want food? You want love up? That's what you want?
Daisy.
Take it easy. Hang on, Daisy. Whoa, she's coming back. Hi, Daisy. Bye, Daisy. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not
First
okay.
animal guest on, but that's not important right now.
That's not good.
What?
I'm not getting any sound, so we're just not gonna bother with Zoom now. Fuck it. That's the end of that. Okay. All right, so we record this and then I'll put it out. Those of you joining us, we went on hiatus for 2 months. Jared
Yes,
and I
we
had a
did.
couple of little brainstorm sessions and meetings. One of the things, we were coming off of the end of the show when we were presented with what we're going to talk about today. That's why we have our wonderful guest, Quincy Ross, back again. The king of, I've been told you're the king of trolling. You are the expert troll. so Quincy, just to remind our listeners what you do, just so we know what you're doing right now.
Oh, me? Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Working on a number of projects. To tell you the truth, right now is a rebuilding period for me. Rebuilding and restructuring. Affected somewhat again by what we're gonna discuss today. So yeah, it's more that I have a little bit of content that I'm working on, some food content with David Wares that I'm looking to jump out in a little while. I have a couple game shows that are looking to shop just now, and yeah, basically that I create content.
Nice.
Good.
That's excellent.
Jared, just so that people who don't remember us, because it's been a while.
Well,
tell us,
yeah.
who is Jared Butts?
Who was?
Who is?
What? Who is? Oh, good. For a minute there, I thought I was dead and Wikipedia was doing an article on me. No. No. Well, I spent 8.5. Oh, there we go again. I spent 8. This is going to be a wild one.
This is
fun.
I
spent 8. Yeah, you think? Spent 8.5 years as a senior writer for one of the more established ad agencies in the previous decade, from 2007 to 2015. And now I am a radio personality, host a morning show, Monday to Saturday, 6 to 9 a.m., Platinum Hits, 103.5 FM, called Platinum in the AM, where we play a lot of music. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. So I'm a writer, an award-winning writer, as well as a radio personality. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Voiceover actor as well. And yeah.
Yeah. So
that's, yeah.
So Jared is predominantly making. Jared, I wanted to mention that I am now, because the term has started and my second son is now going to.
I saw that.
Secondary school.
So you and your son, yeah.
I have to wake up at the ungodly hour at 4:30 in the morning so that we could circumvent the traffic. And we talked about this on previous podcasts that we learned absolutely nothing from the pandemic. Learned shit.
Well, that's
because
true.
it's right
it
back to where I have to wake this poor boy up at a, I mean, we're not even seeing the sun coming over the mountains. That's to tell you. He's like, what the hell
Wow.
is that? He's literally, where's that?
What the
I'm like,
hell is
that's the sun, boy. Yeah, what? Because when he used to get up to do, when he was doing SCA earlier this year, I mean, he would just roll out of bed and go to class. That was like, you didn't even see the sun. You only see the sun when you're finished class or whatever, you know, you didn't see sun
Yeah.
rising. He's like, what's the sun rising, sun rising? Anyway, um, so the reason why I was saying that is that um, I'm listening to you now on the radio at when you come on. And
Yeah.
this morning I was taking a little snooze because after I dropped in, I just parked up and took a little snooze. And there's Jared, giving his inspirational quotes, and I think he did some really good inspirational stuff this morning.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Thank you.
So people should. You usually do that inspirational stuff like twice
No, just once.
Hmm.
The inspirational quotes come on like at about, let's see, about 6:20, 6:25 or
Yeah,
thereabouts.
yeah, it's
So
about
yeah,
that time. So yeah,
yeah.
y'all, if
So
y'all are
tomorrow's gonna be special.
good,
Tomorrow's gonna be
good.
special because tomorrow it's been 56 years since Star Trek debuted on NBC back in
Okay.
1966. So we're going to be featuring exclusively quotes from the original series, not necessarily from the
nice,
next generation. So yeah.
nice.
Con!
Well, we'll see if we can. We'll see if we can squeeze in some stuff.
Con!
We'll see if we can squeeze in some stuff from the movies, from the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan, Search
What's
for
the
Spock.
line? What's the line? Life is not but a dream. um, yeah, so you guys listen to it. When you say tomorrow, that would be Thursday. When we
Thursday, yeah.
publish this, it will be the Thursday. But you all tune in 20 past 6 and listen to Jared because he's, plays some good music in the morning and you know, he's a guy who you don't want to hear. You see, the problem I have with radio, just as a segue, and maybe I don't know, Quincy might say, no, I don't believe that. But my feeling is there's a lot of crap on the radio. When you hear
Well,
something
that's true.
good
Yeah,
on the radio, you kind of like, it makes you feel good because sometimes I listen to like the news and stuff, and I'm just like, nah, I'll take this off. And then the
yeah,
people who read the news make it even worse because they
true.
mispronounce words and they do all kind of anyway. So that we talk about radio, we talk about media, and we talk about advertising, which is supposed to keep these things going. The ultimate goal of keeping things like journalism going is paying for it. You can't, journalists aren't doing this for free. You have to be paid for it. And in the old days, advertising did that. So the advertisers would put ads in the papers and on TV and the radio, and that would pay for people like Jared to go and sing nonsense on the radio, right? So the paradigm has shifted, and we talked about that in the episodes before. If you all are now listening to us, we have 3 seasons of content. We try to keep this for an hour, but sometimes we go over. And a lot of the theme that we've been having is that we are old school people that have to realize that
Emphasis on old.
we're no longer in that sphere that we used to be. And this is where we're going to lead into today, because one of the things we wanted to do before we went off in July or June, when we went off on hiatus, was
Mhm.
we got a copy of Patrick. How you pronounce his last name?
Johnstone.
Johnstone.
Johnstone is Johnstone.
Yeah,
Patrick Johnstone's book. Is it an autobiography? Is it a biography? What is it? Is it a
it's not necessarily an autobiography. It's more chronicling his experiences as an ad man in Trinidad and Tobago
yeah,
from the dawn of the 70s to say about 2000. So it's 30 years.
yeah,
He's chronicling 30 years of
yeah,
his experiences as an
yeah.
ad man. And the book itself, Heady Days, is well,
It ain't Hemingway. I think that's how you
let's just
describe
say
it.
when I read this book, I was reminded of what a famous wit by the name of Dorothy Parker once said. She said once about another book that this is not a book to be tossed aside lightly. This is a book that should be thrown with great force. And reading that, I mean, yeah, okay, I didn't expect you to sound like Hemingway. I didn't expect you to write like Naipaul. I didn't expect any of that. I did, however, expect it to be conversational. Not in the, I expected it to have a little more warmth. You didn't really go into too much detail with respect to the people who were working with him. He just came up with these cardboard cutouts of these individuals. We didn't really get to know them as human beings. Just somebody who happened to be there at the right place at the right time. They supplied the kind of material he wanted. Bada boom, bada bing. It was done.
Yeah.
But we really
let me read the, I wouldn't call it the synopsis. I know Quincy chomping at the bit. He just wanted, take in front.
I know.
But before we get there, let's get some context. All right. So yes, it is a book about his life as an ad man. Now, Patrick Johnstone is no longer running Publicis Caribbean. Quincy, correct me if I'm wrong. He's no longer.
Well, I guess he'll be involved behind the scenes, I'd imagine. But Scott is at the helm right now, which is his son, Scott Johnstone.
So he's retired. Essentially, he's retired, but he's kind of like what they call it in the Corleone family when you have a consigliere? Consigliere, yeah. He's kind of like that role now. He's kind of the advisor. But I just want to read Loop's article because I don't actually have the book. The book is actually at Platinum 103's security desk because I was supposed to pick it up and I didn't get a chance.
And you never did.
Yeah, so we will sort that out. But that's because I went out of the country and it was just a big old mess. But anyway, let me read what Loop said, right? So Loop article, which is the only article that I saw, I didn't see anything else about it. And I believe that he got Loop to do this because it's a kind of promotional thing. After 50 years of watching the world of advertising evolve, Patrick Johnstone, CEO of Publicis Caribbean Limited, retired a proud man. Johnstone decided to memorialize his time in the advertising world using the printed word. Heady Days recalls the ups and downs, laughs and frowns of a young profession and its professionals. I think, what is it called, the oldest profession in the world? Is it advertising? Advertising?
No, it's not advertising.
Actually, it's
I will
not
say
there.
a certain
it's
American president once said. A certain American president once said that journalism it bears a close resemblance to the world's oldest profession. But then again, he never had to begin advertising.
Right. Everyone can benefit from Johnstone's memoir, but particularly those with a vested interest in advertising history. I think Quincy had commented and said that when we were discussing it in the group chat. From sweet stories of making deadlines and concept building to tokens of wisdom fit for even the most, oh my God, whoever wrote this didn't edit it properly. For even the most seasoned, Johnstone provides a nostalgic look back with the comfort of optimism for the foundation he's laid for the future. Okay, Quincy, your thoughts on this book?
Well, quite a lot of thoughts actually, but I'll try to condense it, right? As you know, as we alluded to here, it is not particularly, let's say, cleverly written book per se. It does read a bit heavy, which is why in the earlies I thought like the first few chapters. I don't want to get too much to spoiler alert levels, but in the first few chapters,
can you actually spoil this book though?
Yes, you can.
Wow.
Yes, you can.
Yes,
you can.
Okay. Okay.
The first few chapters I find had a certain color to it that I thought, starting off there, it was a little lighter than further into the book, right? But getting further into the book, I found it got heavier. And I changed my thoughts from, anybody could probably pick this book up and read it, to this is like almost like a manual, more or less, which is the mode that I got into when I was reading it.
Yeah.
Because it does read like a sort of more like a diary, and when I say a diary, like a log of this
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
this up,
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I think for the practitioners, for the professionals, it could give a lot of insights, especially technical insights, like, talking about the technology of the day, how we manipulate certain things, the business of it, and that sort of thing. What jumped out at me and why I would say that everybody should read it, everybody in the industry, I think, should, get a copy, get their hands on a copy and take it in, is because what it did to me was offer me a perspective of advertising that exists, but that's not my experience whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, not even close. It's almost opposite, basically.
Yeah. Just before we we get it, just so we put it in context, you started when? When did you start in advertising?
That would have been what, 96 or somewhere around the late 90s.
Pretty much by like me, yeah. All right.
Around the first agency was Leon Agostini.
Right.
And I actually started as a apprentice, more or less. The position was, I would give you this job to see if you could do it. That was the position.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It was in the copy department. I had no idea what a copywriter was. But I just thought I could do it because wherever you get me to do creatively, I sure I could do that.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked out, Actually, I went in I was a designer at that time.
Yeah.
I went with a portfolio design work, but it didn't have a design job, And applied for a copywriting position, which I didn't know it was. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. And Winfield Aliong, who was written about in that same book, gave me the job, So saying that
everything before that, when we got in, and especially Jared, because Jared got in even later, before that, it's very difficult for us to say what Patrick is saying in his book can be verified. And this is one of the things we're discussing. So we took, now I heard some of the stories about advertising in Trinidad from before, right? But nothing, in other words, there is no historical, I wouldn't call it database, there's no historical write-up of this is what happened in 1975 in the industry, this is what happened in 1981. What we have is Patrick Johnstone, as you said before, writing like a laundry list of events that happened. And none of this can be verified in the sense that, I remember that. Now, some of the campaigns he worked on, as Jared mentioned, we can verify that those were done. Coal. It was coal. It was, what was the one? The Suzuki one where he was going up the stairs.
I remember that. Remember that one.
I remember the Dairy Queen ad. Dairy Maid. Right? So those things you say, oh I know those things. I remember those things from my childhood. But actually to say, well, what he talks about the development of those things, the scant things that he did, you can't verify. Because after 1990, I said, some of the things he's saying here sounds weird, but again, I don't know anybody else in the industry who I could say, hey, read this book and tell me if he talking shit. You see? Because other than Quincy and Anthony and the other people who we usually have on the podcast, nobody could really sit down and say historically if Patrick is just making this shit up. You're following?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. It is always good to have, verifiable facts. But the truth is, the things that you're talking about in the context, I mean, even if it a little off, I don't think it really affects the end result and what they get from it, right? Also, I think you have reason to make it up beyond maybe his recollection might probably be a little off in one or two things that has happened as humans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But But I don't feel it, from what I know and from what I read, I don't feel it to be things that will be drastically off, you know? Maybe some things along the timeline, for me actually, well, as I think about it, some things along the timeline, I was like, okay, I'm not too sure about this, you know, when this happened, to know if it went sequentially or, you know what.
Yeah,
But again, I probably wasn't invested in it to that extent or for
yeah,
that purpose, you know. By the
yeah.
time I started to get into the book, a different thing was jumping out at me
Right,
big time,
right,
you know. So
right. And that's where
yeah.
we want to get to today. But before we
Mm,
get there, um, one one of the things that did jump out to me was that he puts himself at the center of things where I don't think he should have been the center.
mm,
Okay, so it's difficult to explain because the way the book is written, if you read the book, you realize it's dearth, as I like to say, it's dearth of details. It's very glossed over some of the things. So like he would describe a lot of technical things, like
right.
how he did, how he was able to shoot video on a cheap budget and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, but we interviewed Timmy Mora on our podcast, and we got Timmy Mora's whole life story, and it didn't gel with what Patrick was saying. You see, Timmy had a different avenue of experience, and even though they may have intersected, because he did mention Timmy in the book, and he did say Timmy was instrumental. I get the feeling that Patrick or Mr. Johnstone, if you want to call him Mr. Johnstone seemed to think that if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have this. And
Mm.
that's the attitude. I got a little bit of that undercurrent, but that was for me. What did you think, you know, was the theme that you got coming across reading this book?
That's me or Jared?
Right.
Jared.
Jared, what do
Oh,
you think?
oh, you're asking me this? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just felt that he spelt advertising with a capital I.
Ah,
That was the,
yeah,
that was the impression. That was the impression that I got
yeah.
reading it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, yes, it's a book about advertising, and yes, it's invaluable if you want to have uh, a look at what advertising was like and how it was done back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. In terms of that, it's an invaluable resource,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna deviate from that particular point of view. However, that being said, it just strikes me as this kind of almost as if you you did work hard at this, you did do a good job, but he really does not go into the details, into the he doesn't say that he had like doubts, crippling doubts, or the
Mm, mm,
uncertainty
mm,
or
mm,
anything like that. If he does mention them, it's just in passing. It's like something that was inevitable, but at the same time, he was able to get over it in a matter of days or
yeah,
hours or something like that.
yeah.
So he had that sort of magic touch, and I think if you wanted to get into the career, you see, this is it. You could write a book about advertising, but if you can get people who are not in the business, who are not in the field, to
Mhm,
read it and to actually like what it is that you're reading, that you're engaging in a
mhm,
conversation with your reader, then and
mhm.
only then they can say, well, yes, this book is is,
Yeah,
is going to go places. This book is going
yeah.
to be more than just an invaluable tool of recording a certain segment of advertising history. Because as small as this country is, that was just a fraction of what went on in
Absolutely,
advertising.
absolutely.
A
But it's
fraction.
not just not. You see, one of the things that was missing from that book is contextualizing the wider situation. You get this feeling that advertising is a silo that happened and nothing else happened around it. There were no
Yeah.
there were no protests. There were nobody had any issue with the society. seemed to be this bubble that advertising didn't interact with.
No, he did. To his credit, he does mention. He does mention, but it just warrants like a couple of paragraphs in the first few pages of the book. He does talk about what happened in 1970 with the Black Power
Yeah,
Revolution and stuff like that.
right.
But it's as if he was there, and
Yeah,
then again he was not there.
yeah. Well, right. I get the feeling, and I think this is where Quincy want to jump in. I
Yeah,
get the feeling that this is where everyone else was, and this is where Patrick Johnstone is,
yeah,
and
yeah.
existing separate and
Because he
apart.
looked at
And
yeah he
and
looked at
I don't disagree. I don't even say that he's unique in that perspective. I think a lot of the industry in the 70s, 80s, and then even now exist
Mhm.
like this. They exist on some sort of higher transcendental plane and really have no idea what's going on down
on the ground,
on the
on the ground,
ground, on the ground.
and
So
as much
Quincy,
and as yes,
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
Quincy,
that is actually what I got from the book mostly. And when I say so, as Jared was saying, you know, it the perspective was, very unique. Very,
putting it
very unique.
mildly, putting it
Yeah,
mildly.
very unique. And it was, for me, it was eye-opening because, we talk about it, like, even front. We
Yeah,
talk about that type of disconnect and that kind of scene. But now seeing it coming out, like that show me the industry in a whole different perspective because I
hmm
believe that is the view from that position. I
hmm
think that is the view, right?
hmm
You're talking about, again, I don't want to sell out too much in the book, but if you look at the story, that's not the story of somebody who jumped in the industry as an apprentice and
right.
coming up through the ranks had to, you know, like prove yourself, number
Yeah,
one, to
yeah,
say, you're getting things past. I'm not talking to a client, I'm talking getting things past your head writer,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
getting
yeah,
things past. Then after your head writer, uh, uh, art director who decide they want to, come down and copy.
yeah,
And after all that, still a creative director, or as Bacanas have it, your group leader and so on, and get
yeah,
all
yeah,
these
yeah,
approvals before you even reach by the client. And then when they
yeah,
reach by the client, there's a whole another battle again, right?
yeah,
You know, that is not our perspective. That is a different perspective where, yeah, it's happening kind of in a silo in a sense, to pull a quote, doing things because I wanted to do it, I
yeah,
wanted to see
yeah,
if I could get it done,
yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I never had that opportunity, that chance
yeah,
to just do
yeah,
something because I feel, it could be done. A matter of fact, I used to beg for battle scars. That's why I used to call it
mhm,
battle scars,
mhm,
right? I want to try something and take the creative risk, and do that whole, I take responsibility, full responsibility. If it work or if it don't work, it's all on my shoulders. Let me go. And I
yeah,
try to do that many times, but not
yeah,
forthcoming.
yeah,
Opportunity few and fine between that. To the
yeah,
point where I could safely say, I mean, straight up, if anybody else to ask for my portfolio don't really have no advertising working it from agencies.
yeah,
My
yeah,
portfolio have worked like 411 and eat our food and
yeah,
other
yeah, yeah,
things that
yeah,
I could
yeah,
say that I actually did this and I feel
yeah,
proud about this as a creative endeavor.
yeah,
I don't have advertising work in my portfolio because
yeah,
I just was not artist in most of these
yeah,
situations,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, quite
yeah,
not unbeknownst to me, but coming up, I guess, immaturity and also not having that perspective. Because, like I told you all, if I read that book, let me say 10 years ago, just 10 years ago, I mean, greater if it was 15, but 10 years ago, I'd have moved real different in the industry.
mm,
I would have do
mhm,
a lot of things very differently. For example, I would not be a creative director. I'd never accept a creative director position.
mhm, mhm,
Would I never? I'd have just
mhm,
continue being a writer. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I'd have
mhm,
stay right there at that level. Not
mhm,
even a senior writer, just a writer.
mhm,
Inside the agency, that is.
mhm,
Outside, there'd be many other things. but I'd put more efforts outside of the industry than inside. You know,
I think one of the things that I got from the book, speaking about that, was this feeling. He starts out the book really in his introduction, saying things have changed. That's established, and he doesn't try to, say, well, what they're doing now is not good. He didn't say that. He just said, things change. Things have changed. We're not doing this anymore, but this is what I did. And okay, I like you said, that's how starting on that foot, I thought, okay, when he got to the point coming down to the present day, he just kind of, well, okay, my son now running the business. But we know what that entails. We internally, we know, even if we're not in the industry, we've seen it. That is not business as usual. You said this. And even though he says, oh, well, okay, um, I can go to Venezuela and get this video production crew and do this, and I change the industry for the better. There isn't anything like that when he finishes the book. He doesn't say, okay, well, I expect another revolution to come like where I was involved. And, you're just like, okay, you're just kind of left hanging. Well, now the industry like this. And you're like, yeah, but the industry isn't like this. The industry is a completely different beast. Totally.
No, here's what I would say. I think that was like that for a reason, right? And I actually, after reading that book, realized that things have not changed. Things have not things might have changed, I would say, cosmetically.
Well, again, coming
very
back to
shallow.
they're up here and everything is down here, and things are happening down here, and they continue to operate up here like if nothing has changed. So that's essentially what it is.
Yeah, there's some of that. So, even if you make a statement like, things are different now, things change, you wouldn't be able to really qualify it because at the core, things have not changed, right? The business of agency has not changed. A lot of what happens in the industry has not changed. For example, there are people operating on that level, the Patrick Johnstone level, that would write a book like that. And I think a lot of people would write a book like that, again, barring any cosmetic differences that people might have. But the essence, the substance, I think that book could be written by a lot of people, right? From that perspective, at least, I would say. Then there's the perspective that other people would come with, men like, I would say, a man like Ken Scott, for example, right? Kenneth Scott, who to me is probably, I'm saying probably only because I never really sit down and give it real systematic thought, But that is the greatest advertising mind I ever meet, right? One of the most brilliant creatives ever, right? To me.
Agreed.
And when you listen to him talk, and he was talking, his experience would be from that same time that the book was written about. His experience much different from that, right? I know that for a fact. That's one of the things that was impacting on me. And this is, like I say, a insanely talented individual, insanely talented, that would not give you that perspective whatsoever. So you see the cycle, you see that happening then. Things happen, I would say, to me, that not like that, dissimilar to that. But when I sit down and I talk to Kenneth, we share stories, we share the same things happening, we share the same perspective on the industry. And for that to happen today, the same way it was happening then, it means things have not changed. And it will impact on the bottom line, which is what the creative output, and what an artist will subject themselves to going into the industry. That is the same. That is hands down the same.
Jared, you have anything you want to add?
No, most of what Quincy was putting forward, he did not strike any sort of false note with anything that he said. Put it this way. If you had 10 different people working on a particular project, you would have 10 different interpretations of how they approached it, what happened to them. Not everybody's experience is going to be the same. Not everybody's experience is going to be rosy.
Yeah.
That being said, you would have expected, because advertising is largely no matter what you say, no matter what anyone says, advertising is largely a team effort. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Exactly.
It is. You go out there as an ad man saying, well, yes, I did this, I did that, but it would not have been possible if I had done this without somebody's input. And yes, names were mentioned in the production and in the creation of particular ads. Some of them iconic ads, even, but they were just given as I kept reading it. I just figured he doesn't really go into any detail, as was stated before. He doesn't really go into any detail with respect to what these individuals were like. It was mostly about him. And how he saw things. And I know it's his book.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't give him wrong.
It's his book. I get him. I get it.
We don't give him wrong.
It's his book, right? He can do that, and he has that right and everything. But I mean, if you didn't know any better, if you were even infinitesimally curious about advertising, and you read a book like that, and you wanted to find out what it was like, you'd be thinking, hey boy, this really ain't doing nothing for me, Dread. I really can't read that shit. And that shit is
not really that. I get the feeling that if you were outside of the industry and you read this book, you'd think advertising easy no ass. It's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy. That's an easy thing.
Easiest shit in the world.
This thing is sucky. I came away with this feeling
to do.
To back up what you said earlier, Jared, he experienced, or at least he did not communicate in the book, any sort of...
He didn't communicate adequately.
Personal obstacles to get over. And I think Quincy mentioned it in the group chat, that, and we'll be very honest here, he had a leg up. He had a leg up.
Yeah.
And he made no bones about saying, I had a leg up. Fine. But everybody, even if you had a leg up, there must be a point in time where you had a obstacle to overcome. And in his case, it was technical obstacles. Yeah. So in the case of the Suzuki thing, well, we reach a point in halfway going up and the car stalled. And one of the fellas, the cameraman, he figured out how to prime the engine. I'm like,
don't spoil the story.
Yeah, but that is not an obstacle. That is you're coming up with a solution. Somebody else coming up with a solution to solve your problem. You did not solve a problem. You understand? Which is what advertising, if you want to call advertising overall, advertising is, well, at least from what I remember being taught, advertising is how you're going to solve the problem. How you solve the problem, why people not buying this product? Well, we go in and find out that there's nothing like that in this book. There's nothing like, well, I started this agency and it failed, but I was able to build it back up. It didn't sound like it was a big deal. It was like...
But that was the experience. And again, I think that is excellent to put out. I honestly believe that is something that we need to see, because you can't, I keep saying this, right? The conversation is always where's the next, so then how to but nobody in putting in the work to find out how we reach here, and you have to put in that work, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of figurative. There's a lot of figurative.
You need to know how we got to this point. Yeah. So.
And literal sweat.
Yeah. So the thing about it is that book gives you the perspective and puts the understanding. Right. For example, there's something that happened to me that book explained why, that I was totally oblivious to and didn't even think it had this level of that going on in advertising, right? Which was Winfield Alliong, right? As I told you, walk into the people place, boldface, apply for a copywriter position. I don't know what the other copywriter is really, but it seemed like it's something creative and writing. I could do that. That is no fucking scene, right?
Yeah.
Here's my portfolio of work, of call cards and billboard designs and all this. And when Phil Young was to ask, well, but you have anything that you write? And I say, well, yeah, my application letter. And he laughed, and say, you know what? They sound like you make a good ad man. Here's $40 a day to see if you could do it. $40 a day, right? I fresh from off the block. $40 a day, something nice to me. I could come in.
That's good money, boy. That's good money.
He said, you know, I ain't a shutter, but I'm balling a little bit, you know, on the weekend. I could buy a little soft serve ice cream by Dairy Bar on the promenade, me and my girl, you know, after a little cinema. So,
a little balling, a little bit of balling, not balling,
so
but little bit.
That is the kind of experience we're talking about.
There's the experience that you know.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. But hear the story. Yeah? I worked for that $40 a day for maybe, it was more than a year. Surety more than a year. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about I reach into work when the person with the key was there to open it, right? And I leaving in the night. I giving man talk, you're working half day, or when people leaving 6 o'clock, I leave at 7 o'clock to travel up the road. For one reason. I love what I'm doing. I get to express myself creatively. I just get to do shit. You know what I mean? I get to write things. Even though it getting shut down, you write something and you have to get approval for this one, and this one don't see it that way. But now, in those days, I was a different beast. The beast that I was, all right, how you want this? You want it like that? All right, right? Look at, best. And why people like to work with me was, I started to learn people. I started to learn, all right, if I had to get this approved by Greg Marfan, this is the type of thing Greg like. Greg like nice play on words. Greg like things that could lead to a big visual thing.
Yeah.
But if I had to do something for Frank Sion, Frank like a little more intellectual kind of scene. So he likes something with a little more deep thought.
Yeah.
And I started to write all them styles. That's what enhanced my creativity. Right? Yeah. So I was having fun, kind of almost impersonating
learning the people.
Writer, you know, learning people. I'm like, I thinking, what Mr. Sion go say if he see this headline? Nah, this night. Think.
Yeah.
My Jones was going and getting approvals one time, that which meant, okay, you understand this person, right? You understand me. And that was fun for me. So I go into work doing that. But we don't lose sight, because I lost sight at the time. That's $40 a day I working out for. Going to presentations and presenting work to clients and writing thing and singing and all kind of scene. Full jingle and stand up and singing full jingle in a room full of men with suit and tie and thing watching me like, what the fuck, boy, this is bad. I having fun. And when Phil Young allowed me to do that for over a year, I never even studied, never get his boy a proper salary. Frank Sion had to come and say, Winfield, what kind of madness is this? Get the boy a proper salary. And my salary up one time, you know, to like about a 6,000 or 7,000 regular, you know, kind of scene. And in the book, there's a reason why Winfield move like that, you know, and it had that level. I working in the industry, not thinking about things like that being possible. You know, I know him studying that kind of scene, but it exists, you know, along with a lot of other things that he said, some nice little gems, that these things exist. And when they understand that, they'll understand why. And I'll make no bones about saying this. If you want to be an artist and you want to really explore your creativity and creative expression and thing, an agency is not the place for you.
Yeah.
Definitely not the place for you. You ain't going to do no art there. You know, you're not going to be the best creative that you could be there. You know what you're going to be? No. And this might be one of the things that hit me and the takeaway was large from that, right? And it's something that I'm going to address going forward. When you'd say, don't worry, you could rant and thing. I don't rant. As a creative professional, I don't rant. I might speak passionately about things, but I don't rant. right? Likewise, by virtue of the book is speaking about an innovator, a creative risk taker, even creative maverick and all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But when I do them same things, as a rebel, is Quincy way or the highway, is he difficult to work with?
Yeah,
You know what? No dread, I no rebel. I just want to take creative risk as well. That is all. I just want to be innovative. I just want to use my vision. And I'm very happy if I come up with something or I see in something in a particular way that nobody else see in it. You know what? That means I'm doing my job. That means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm seeing it differently.
Yeah,
and I
the thing
want a
is,
chance to express it.
they say they want the innovation. We've talked about this before. They want the innovation because the money and the winning of the business and the is hinged on being innovative. But when it comes down to it and the brass taxes, we want the same thing we had before. And we don't want nobody rocking the boat. We don't want nobody rocking the boat.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And at that time I used to think so too. I used to think it was about the creativity and the and if you read the book again, read the whole thing. Have lines that are addressing that.
Let's do a spoiler alert. And let's tell people if you don't want to know, skip ahead, right? Skip ahead.
Okay.
But really, I want to hear that story of the story on your side, what he said in the book, because I want to hear that part of it. And I think
real
maybe our listeners,
line.
You know, I'm not here to hawk the book, yeah. I'm not telling you, you all need to go and read this book. If you borrow the book, great. But where did I buy it, Jared? I can't remember. Nigel Arcon?
R.I.K. or either R.I.K. or Nigel Arcon, yeah.
Right. And the book is $250. And that hurt me to my soul. Somebody say, nah, that's how much books is cost now. I like, I feel it. Now, I want to just before we get there, I want to give a shout out to the people who designed that book, Parrot Publishing, who I worked with, the best songs. And they are beautiful, wonderful people. Always say they are. And they did a very, very good job at the design of that book. I mean, the written content, okay, but the design of the book is beautiful. It's a beautiful book. It's well designed, it's well put together. No qualms there. But spoiler alert, if y'all want to go and read the book yourself, you can fast forward here until the end, right? But really want to find out what that story was from what Patrick says. Because I think you know what you're talking about, but I want people to know to know the other side. I want that.
So yeah, what is actually not a story. It's just a couple lines. So it is kind of spoiler alert-ish, and I probably could make it more so, but I'm going to just drop the line because let me just get straight to the point. There was a part of the book that he was talking about wanting to expand because he was already the owner of a small agency and he was looking for the big clients. And he says, plain talk, a big client just wouldn't sign to a small agency. That is the fact. And again, this is why I say it's similar to now because that is the truth. Right now, if you go out there with the most innovative solutions, greatest ideas, strong work, with everything back in it, every single thing that a big agency could put on the table, a big client still wouldn't sign it there. Yeah. Simply because big clients do sign to small agencies. Yeah. And now this is somebody who was connected enough to, I mean, again, when you read the book, you'll see the route to getting the job, the things that happened in terms of him owning his first agency, and so on. So there's somebody connected saying that. Far more from somebody like myself who not connected, parents not in any circles whatsoever.
Exactly.
If there's somebody like that saying a big client now go and sign to a small agency, that is like golden words. That is things to really listen to and pay attention to, and know that no matter how brilliant your work gonna be, how brilliant work, whatever brilliant work you're putting out, you're not gonna walk into any big client and get them to sign on the dotted line and say, yeah, we're gonna give our business to you.
That's
Not
true,
gonna
because
happen.
every year that we pitched in McCann for the TSTT business, every year, some lady from Shoguanas, can't remember the girl name now, she would tender. She would put her thing into tender. And when we like, who is this person? Her paradigm, and this way back in 2004, 2003. I mean, people not thinking of scaling business or anything like that. Is a sense of, well, I am the agency, me. If I get the job, I will hire 20 people and 15, and I will build an agency for you. TSTT wasn't going there. They would never do that, but she kept doing it. I don't know why she kept doing it, but I mean, she kept, right up until when McCann won the business, she had pitched for this business. And I'm like, okay, but this is also costing you money because you have to now put money into the tender and all this kind of thing. But coming back to that line, I think that's important for any entrepreneur wanting to get, because you have people like Caribbean Ideas who are out there really trying their best to be this agency. But it's the same problem. Nobody, no Carib, no Lever Brothers, not one of the, no Nestle is going to go and hire Caribbean Ideas.
Not just like that. Not just like that. You know? I mean, there is some merit in the fact that, I mean, we reach into the age where our peers getting into certain positions that could pull a little string or two, right?
Yeah.
So you might get a little business here, get a little business there.
Yeah.
But as you know, that is now how to sustain an agency in the first place. And you had to be placing the media and thing if you really want to be rocking. Yeah. And all that is the other level of the thing that when you reach on that level, then you can talk about, you know, success.
Yeah. Because the other thing now is, how things are working is that, and this is all wrapped up in new media and social media and all this stuff, is that agencies no longer have, big agencies no longer have that clout where they can say, well, look, we will take your big business and build it or whatever. These clients are not interested in that. They're just looking not just for cost effectiveness, which is a big deal right now. So, for example, I heard that in order to win a certain piece of big business, an agency had to say, well, we would charge half the amount that we usually charge. So how you're paying employees, how you're paying but you want the business. You want it because you need it. You need it to have it on your roster. We have this agent, we have this client. And if the other big companies see we have this client, then, you know, that would put a foot in the door. But the expense of that is you're paying Quincy $40 a day for 3 years or whatever, you know, right? So the issue really comes down to, do you really want to go after this big business? You're following as a small agency. And you're right, it might be that you just need to nip at the little corners. If you're going to start a new agency, say, listen, there's no way I could go and win a car. I know winning a car, but I might win a Carib event, or I might present a little demo and make a little money off of the Carib ad that the agency will then use. That is to me where we are right now.
Well, look, hear this. Let me drop this gem, right? And a short true to form, I'm gonna say this, might get minimal response. Some people might say, thing or whatever. But years from now, you're gonna see it, right? But I say it with confidence now. The way is not to look for clients. Right now, the way is to be the client. Right? And when I say be the client, I mean this. Creatives always had the power. Artists always had the power, right? What the democratization of media now allowing artists and creatives, people who could do things, who could make things, to access a certain power like never before. So why not make your own shit? Why go to somebody who making things already and say, "Yo, let me help you sell them things that you're making"? What about somebody who never had an agency before and probably can't have one because it's out of reach? What about designing something that you could go to that person and say, "Hey, what? I could do this for you. Let me do this based on sales. You know? Give me a percentage of your sales and you work out a figure." Or make the shit for yourself. What's stopping you from, I don't know, making, I mean, apart from legal shit, I'm now thinking about that, but making a microbrewery home, you know what I mean? And probably getting whatever license.
I always laugh that people like Carib Brewery, there's a scene in Simpsons where Homer had some internet service provider business and Bill Gates roll up in the man's house and mash up everything. And he said, "Yeah, but you're Bill Gates. You know, but why are you doing this?" He said, "Because I don't make money by writing checks. In other words, buying the company. Well, I just destroy the competition." And that's what the ad agency really is. An ad agency is a man who will go on, and Carib is like that. Carib is like, you talk about microbrewery, remember Samba? Mash up Samba beer. Mash it up. And when they try to bring in Heineken, they block them on the port. You tell the people that then containers is not to leave the port for another 6 months or something. And Carib mash them up. So that is the kind of business that you'll be getting into. Anyway, I digress.
But what I'm saying is, what's stopping you from setting up a bar, like you say, a village bar, right?
Yeah.
And creating a little microbrewery within the bar. And you just selling your own beer and maybe some wings and things or whatever. Setting up your own scene and market the thing for yourself as a creative. You know, like what a creative is right now, what an artist is right now could be plenty more than what an artist could ever be before.
Yeah, it's true.
Even with AI and things coming out now that could create your artwork. And we don't even have to go as far as AI. Just Canva, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where the average Joe could put together something that is giving people artist powers, you know what I mean? So then you as a designer, you as a producer, you as a writer, you have to start to secure yourself outside of what these things could produce, you know? You know, and take a different perspective to the thing and start really creating. And really creating means I see an issue, I see a problem. It might be in education, it might be in entertainment, it might be in food and beverage. Let me solve this problem and use the creativity to solve the problem and to sell it too.
Yeah, there you go.
That is what we're talking about. I no longer speaking about an industry that already have its rules and already have its people, its owners, and so on. Cool. I glad, I happy for all, right? But I no longer, well, I mean, I never did, but I purposefully now don't really want to sit at that table. I don't want that. If it
well, that's what we had discussion. But coming back to the future of an agency, I think that what you're saying there, a lot of people have realized that, at least on the designer level, even on the writer level, that they don't need like you walking into Alion Aristide and saying, "Yeah, I could be a copywriter." They're not doing that. And the agencies are going to find themselves in a situation where they really cannot find that kind of talent. The talent is is demanding on their terms how they deliver the work. And the agencies can't handle that. That's not how they work. Anyway, we have done quite a bit of talking.
Yep.
And we've gone quite a bit. Quincy, I hope this worked with your soul. You wanted to, bring it out. I hope we got it out. I think this is good though.
Some of it. I mean, like I say, it put me on a different path. So
I think it kind of puts us all in a different perspective. And I think that was the important thing. And I that's why I wanted to discuss the book. Because we don't, as you said earlier on, we don't know where we came from. And it's important to know where we came from if we know where we're going. And that's a mantra of mine because my original degree in university is in history. I'm a historian, even though I wouldn't know jack shit about history now. But what I'm saying is my attitude is that same thing, that I think it's important for people to know that. And then just quickly, one of the other discussions which came off in the Timmy Mora thing, which is also something that has a discussion. I don't know if you know Susanna Khan. You work with Suzanne.
Yeah.
When Suzanne and I met up in Orlando, and Suzanne's like, all the old ads that McCann have are gone. They just threw them all out. All the radios, all the things. Yeah, because that's how, or they put them in some kind of storage, and who knows what has happened to them. Nobody cares. And I think Patrick also mentioned that in his book, and he made a very good comment. He said, and go and read the book and read the comments. Right? We need to know where we go, where we have come from. And I think that coming back to why we do this podcast. We do this podcast because we want people to understand that as a creative person, you don't have to go to an agency. But if you want to go to an agency, well, this is the experience.
Well, you know how I'd put it? If you want to be a creative, there are ways that you could go about it. One of them is to go to an agency, but know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're doing. And you're not going to be able to, unless you own the agency or you're in a position of power, you're not going to be able to pursue, to really have autonomy. You're not going to have it. You're not going to have autonomy. You probably might get some mastery in it. You're most likely not going to have much purpose either, right? So you're going to be working devoid of those things, but it could work if you want to go and do it and gather some money and think I'm not going to tell nobody don't.
Absolutely.
That. But if you really want to flex the creative muscle and really do game-changing things, our agency is not the place for it.
Jared, any closing comments?
Well, not really. I mean, I think you and Quincy have pretty much said what needed to be said with respect to what was discussed as far as this podcast was concerned. We all have, experiences with respect to advertising. Some of the experiences have been great, others not so good. And like as I also said before, it is something that but Quincy was right. I mean, things have changed to the point where if you really want to express yourself in a creative way, the agency is definitely not the agency as we knew it is not the way to do it. It's not.
Yeah, no longer. You cannot walk into an agency now and say, I don't know how to be a copywriter. It just won't work this time. It won't work.
It would not work out. It would not work. But it would help. But it would help tremendously if you, again, as Quincy pointed out, if you want to do that, want to make some bread, hey, no problem.
Why not? Yeah,
do what needs to be done.
Just don't think of it as something that you will. Anyway, we have talked a lot. Quincy, thank you very much for joining us.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, man.
All right. So usually,
always great to have you here.
What we usually do is we end on a definition.
Yes.
What's that? What we defining? Patrick Johnstone.
No.
a guy who wrote a book like he was an account executive giving a contact report.
No, that's not writing.
But that's not important right now.
That's not writing. That's typing. Whoa, that's bad. That's really bad. Right. Sorry. That's terrible. No, what are we defining? We're defining the future. What is the future? Well, I can tell you what the future is, right? Yesterday was history. Tomorrow is a mystery. And today is a gift, which is why we call it the present. But that's not important.
That's not important right now. Thank you very much for your listening to our first episode of season 4. We are going to be doing, this is going to be released on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube channel simultaneously. So go follow us and subscribe and all that stuff. Like us and everything. Thank you very much for listening. We welcome comments. We welcome all that kind of Even if you had a bad thing to, even if you hate us and say
Yes,
you're talking absolute rubbish, we'd accept that too. We don't get enough
we'll
of it.
accept that.
Get, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So have a good week, y'all, and we'll see y'all next week.
Next week.
Thanks a
There you
lot.
go.
Bye.
Haters.
Bye, guys. Later.
Yeah, yeah.